excited to announce my new show, Becoming You Again, with me, your host, Jennifer Jean. This show is for anyone looking to grow in their faith, to heal, and to start moving forward in the purpose that God has for you. I can't wait for you guys to check out Becoming You Again. Hello and welcome to Becoming You Again, where we have real conversations about faith, healing, and finding God's purpose for your life. I'm your host, Jennifer Jean, and with me today is special guest, entrepreneur, and founder of Morgan Publicity, Kate. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so thrilled to be with you today.
I'm so excited to have you because we have something in common.
Yes.
And that's that we were both solo parents.
Yes.
At one time in our life.
That's right. It's the club we belong to.
I know. And I don't think people realize just how hard it is.
They don't. And I think we really should get into that.
I do too. And you moved here from London?
Yes, the UK, yeah.
Okay. And what brought you here?
I remember it so clearly. I was walking to the subway in London. I was going to work and it was just a dark, damp, miserable morning, and it was like gusts of wind and just like a typical like bitter winter's morning. I just think, oh, do I have to live like this?
Yeah.
Like it really was a moment. And I was on my way to work and I like got the subway to my work, and instead of like going to the office, I went to the bank and got a loan and hired an immigration attorney and like really started the process. I've always had a connection to America. I have some family that live here. I've visited multiple times, and I just thought, why not go for it? So I was very tenacious and bold, and that's what I did.
So the weather was a big component to why you left.
Yeah, if I'm being honest, it was.
I get that, because no offense to Seattle folks, but I lived in Seattle for 5 years, and it was really hard for me because it was so gloomy. And it really affected my mood. Like,
Same.
I didn't want to get out of bed. And I don't think people realized, who were maybe born and raised there, how much it affected your, like, how you felt that day and
Absolutely.
what you got done. And seasonal affective disorder is a really real thing.
It is. And like when you're going to work in the dark and you come home in the dark,
Yeah.
and in the UK, it gets dark at like 3:30, 4 o'clock in winter. I was like, this isn't good for my psyche. I need some sunshine.
Yeah, and I would think to myself, I hope people know there's like Southern California
Options.
is here.
Right.
You know, we have perfect weather all the time.
I know, we're so spoiled.
Yeah. Yeah, so I totally get that. You moved here with less than $500 in your pocket.
Yes, I was young. I was in my early 20s, and you know, I'd had a great career in London. I was working in PR. And my job were very, very understanding, and they offered me a sabbatical, and they were like, don't quit, just see if you want to do it first. I was like, well, that's very generous. So I did 3 months here, which is like the 90-day tourist visa, and really just got to know the area while I was incubating on this huge life decision. And then after, you know, I'd hired an immigration attorney and done all my paperwork to get the visa, you know, I had blown through all my resources. So by the time I actually was ready to go, I had a couple of $100 to my name, and that was it.
Yeah. You must have been really good at your job for them to be like, oh, don't quit. We don't want you to go.
I haven't met anyone else actually that's had their job preserved while they're actively, I gave notice. I told them I was leaving, and they were like, just hold on that, you know, go really see if this is something you want to do. And I think they thought I would just get 3 months out with my sister. It would be good to come back.
I know. And it shows that you are operating in what you're good at. And that's something I'm really passionate about, is just seeing people operate in their true gifts and their true calling. And it sounds like you found that from a very early age.
I think I am just unapologetically bold sometimes, and I think, you know, looking now, and we were talking, you know, we're moms and we're busy, and you know, when I only had to take care of me, that is your years to really take risk. And what was the worst that would happen? I'd go home with my tail between my legs. You know, I gave it a shot.
Yeah, you only live once. That's what I tell my kids. I was a dreamer, And I became a mom young, and I moved out of, I was born and raised down here, but moved to Vegas with my parents, moved back to the area to explore, the entertainment industry. And that didn't last very long because my grandma told me, okay, you're going to get a real career. She gave me like
Get a real
9
job.
months. And then she was like, it's time to go to school. And, but I always tell my kids, pursue your dreams when you're young,
Yeah.
because when adulthood happens and you become a parent yourself, it's a lot harder.
Yeah, definitely. Not impossible, but you're not number one anymore. Your children are, and all their needs are.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it is the time to do it.
Yeah. So we were talking about how we were both solo parents. Tell me about that experience.
Yeah.
What it was like for you.
So I was in a relationship that was a little bit complicated, and children weren't a conversation for us. It wasn't like we were planning any kids, and things happen, and I discovered I was pregnant, and we had a bit of a challenging moment where I really grappled with, do I want to continue a pregnancy with someone that is really showing me this is not what they want, they're not interested in this, and that's fine if that's your viewpoint, but this is ultimately a decision that only I can come to. And I wrestled with it because all my family are the other side of the world, so I really had to contend with, if I'm going to do this, there is a real possibility I'm doing this alone. And we was, I want to say, together. It transpired there was a whole other situation with this man where I was pretty much hoodwinked. And anyway, fast forward, I was alone when I was pregnant. He was sort of in and out, and I ultimately had my wonderful son, and it just ended up being the two of us. And I look back at that now, and I'm so proud of how I handled that, because I didn't have an option to wallow. I didn't have an option to there was a huge amount of grief around, everything that you picture when you're welcoming life into the world. And my reality was really quite sad. There were some very traumatic events around the birth of my son, and the kind of weeks after, when I should have been really just basking in motherhood, I was dealing with a really difficult person that made my life really, really challenging. And I just used it as ammunition to be like a proverbial F you. I am not going to let this define me. You are not going to steal my joy. And it was interesting. I remember emailing all my clients, and I told them sort of what had happened, that my working hours might be a little bit different now. When I put the baby to bed, I might be working up until 11 p.m. Don't feel compelled to answer me. And they were all so understanding. They were like, we're not going anywhere. We're with you through this. And I had a huge growth year.
Yeah.
So my fear was that, oh my God, everyone's going to leave. I'm going to be this struggling solo mom. And it was the opposite. My business had a huge growth year.
It's amazing how when we give people the opportunity to show up for us and rally around us, that a lot of times they really do rise to the occasion. I've been a single mom twice in my life. I was a solo mom at 21, and similar, hoodwinked to the 5th degree. I mean, you could not imagine everything. I thought this was a real relationship. No, I was only 21. Turned out this person was much older than they said. I believed them, said they own their own business. I believed them. I mean, and then it found out, none of it was true.
But that's probably because you're not operating in anything that's not a moral compass that we share, and you can't relate when people.
I was so naive, because I'm like, why would anyone go around lying like that?
Right.
It just was not even a thought in my mind. And unfortunately, some of the nicest people get taken advantage of because they're not thinking the worst of everyone. Lesson learned, though, and I would never take it back because it made me who I am today.
Absolutely.
So it was one of the best things that honestly ever happened to me. one of the hardest things, because I was only 21 and I didn't really feel like I had a lot of, support and, but I really feel like God got me through. And I knew from the beginning, he was like, I'm not going to be involved. And I just had a strong conviction that I need to have this baby.
Yeah.
And I actually had a dream, because I even thought about giving him up for adoption, because I had a counselor tell me, what kind of mom can you be? At 21 years old, you have no income, you're a student, there are so many people who can give this child a good life. And it was, and so I thought, you're right. Someone else can do this better than me. There are so many people who can give this child a good life. And it was, and so I thought, you're right. Someone else can do this better than me. But I'm a person of prayer, and I just really turned to God, and I felt like God was speaking to me. But I remember this defining moment where I had a dream, and I was walking along with this little boy, and he was running alongside me playing in the grass, and there were parents there, and the little boy was theirs, because in my dream I had given him to them to raise. And he brought me the most joy I'd ever experienced in my life. And I knew right then and there that if I gave him up, that's how I'd feel. I would regret it. And selfish or not, I was keeping my baby.
It's not selfish, that's maternal.
Yes, and you know what? It was amazing, because although I do feel like I rushed in, I ended up getting married 2 years later, which probably out of like feeling like in need of, I need help, I need support. But at the same time, all of it, shaped who I was. Mm-hmm. And I am so proud of that boy. He's 21 right now.
Oh my gosh.
He just won, he's the youngest to have won male physique. He's a bodybuilder.
Wow.
He's won 4 medals.
Incredible.
Yeah, so I'm such a
proud mama.
And he's a very godly man. He's amazing. So
you did an amazing job.
Oh, well, thank you.
Clearly, I know, but it is them moments where you look back and you think, actually, them moments of real, like dark night of the soul, when you're really like conflicted and you're in the trenches. I look back on it now the same way it sounds like you do, and I'm so grateful for that experience. And there's a lot of blessings that can come from darkness, and it just shapes you in a way where I'm like, I have just become just so strong-willed after that. I'm like, if I can do this, if I can raise a child alone the other side of the planet, no, I've never seen one copper coin from anyone in raising my boy. And I'm so proud. I sent him to private school. He has a wonderful life. I'm so proud of us.
Yeah,
he gave me this like, go get him. And I'm just, I wouldn't change anything, none of it.
I love that. So I ended up being a stay-at-home mom for a while. I adopted kids out of the foster system. I had a lot of children, 7 in my home at one time.
Wow.
And then I ended up becoming, I got a divorce, found out I had been cheated on for 12 years, had to become a single mom again. And that's when I really felt that, oh my gosh, I've got to figure this out. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing like a single mama who wants to provide for their kids, who will be determined and rise to the top.
Right, it's just baptism by fire. Let's go.
Yes, I ended up becoming the top 10 realtor in 1 year after getting divorced, and I was pretty much a stay-at-home mom before that. But it was like, I've got to make it. I've got to make it. My babies need me. I need to be an example. Mm-hmm. And so I love how you said, like, pain, it turns right into purpose.
Yeah, it does. And I think, that's such a key message. Like, whoever's watching this and they might be in that moment themselves, it's just knowing that can't and won't last forever. And I think it's so important to not just to teach, but to really be an example of how important financial independence is. You really shouldn't be relying fully on anyone. I don't even believe if you have the most stable, loving relationship and you're the stay-at-home mum and everyone's providing, that you don't have any avenue of your own finances. I personally don't think that is a smart move, because if the rug gets ripped up, and I hope it never does, but what if it does? And you just have to protect yourself. You have to protect your family, your children, and I think it's so important.
I mean, it's unfortunate, but I definitely feel that way. Because also, and I tell my girls this, I always say, have an education, or if not an education, some way to provide for yourself, because it gives you power, it gives you opportunity. And if you don't have that, it keeps you vulnerable and stuck. Like, I stayed in an abusive relationship for a very long time because I had no way out.
Exactly. And I think, you know, when there's fear in the room, you know, there's not consent in the room, and there's not, you can't be emboldened to make the choices you need to make. And it's a very vicious cycle. And I'm so sorry you had to live that and go through that. And I know we're speaking to, unfortunately, we're not the only ones sitting here having this conversation. It happens. And I think even if you're in a moment, like you're saying, like having a really good skill set, even if you can't use it right now, something that you can pick up at any point, like just having, like you say, the education, or just something that if you really needed to trigger it's your safety net.
Yeah, totally. How did it all start to change for you? It sounds like you were pretty successful before becoming a solo parent. Is that right?
I was on the way there.
On the way.
Yeah. My company now is over 10 years old and my son is 8. So I've worked in PR forever at this point. I've had a very long career in media and publicity. So I know I'm not good at everything, but I'm good at this. I know how to do this. And I felt like my, you know, company was on the up and up, and then this unplanned pregnancy, and you're just evaluating everything. But I just didn't let it. I was like, why can't I have both? It's hard. I don't believe you can have it all at the same time, but I do think you can have it all. I can have my son. I can have a career. It's just going to be a juggle for a while, and something will give. And for me, it was, you know, my social life. That was fine. I was happy to put that on the back burner. I was just dialed in. I'm a mom and I'm a career woman. That's my MO right now.
Yeah. And that's a good thing, because it's the most, I mean, your kids or your family, to me, that's number one. That's the most important thing. So, and you've got to have a career to provide for them. So social life, it can take the back seat.
Yeah, I just did whatever I needed to do. I had a client that was already scheduled to come in from Japan, and we had all this media scheduled in New York. I got on a plane 4 weeks postpartum with my baby. And I remember I flew out my stepsister from London, and she followed me to every appointment. I breastfed, gave my baby back. And at the end of the day, my client then realized I just had a baby, and they were like, how did you just do that? And I was like, I didn't want to burden you with it. I was here to do the job. I got the job done. And at the end of the day, we're in a bar celebrating. And my stepsister's like, here's your son. And
solo parents don't have the luxury of being like, oh, I want to take the day off.
There was no maternity leave, none.
It makes you really just dig your heels in and say, I got to get to work.
Yeah.
And so what would you tell someone who maybe is in a situation right now, they found out some pretty big news, big life change, whether it's knowing they're going to newly be a single solo mom, or maybe they're going through a divorce. What advice would you give to someone in that situation?
I would say, really, I do think there's something in act in haste, repent in leisure. I really think sometimes you have to be very strategic about what your next move should be. So if there was a scenario where everything's blended, perhaps, you know, you're married and you realize I might be becoming a single mom at some point, you know, be smart. Go and consult a family law attorney. Know what your rights are, and make sure you get what is right for the child's best interest, and like, don't be manipulated,
Right.
and just focus on what is important for this child. And if you're in a situation where maybe you're not officially married, but you know, there is another individual where you're having to contend with a difficult situation, making sure you're safe, making sure you have a support network. You know, for me, I didn't have my family right here, but I had amazing friends. You know, I was on bed rest in my pregnancy, and it was my wonderful gays that came over and were literally nursing me and helping me. And you know, you just need to make sure you've got it can be small and mighty, just have some core people that have got you.
I love that. Small and mighty. You don't need, I always say, like, a few good friends is better than, you know, a bunch of acquaintances who aren't really going to show up. And so getting that support in place. And then also, I think being strategic. If you sense and know, like, I don't think this is going to work out, start doing what you need to do so you can provide. Because I've known so many women, people don't realize how many women end up losing their kids because if they're in an abusive relationship and they leave, then they're seen as someone who abandoned their children and abandoned their house.
Right.
And so, but they have no choice because they don't have an income to take their kids and
they're
provide
buried in litigation. And you know, it's very difficult if there's a power dynamic where, and family court is brutal. I'm really fortunate that my situation was so cut and dry where there's just an absentee biological parent.
Right.
This is where we say you see blessings in it. My son hasn't had the trauma of going through the family court system. I've been his core, stable, I'm not going anywhere parent. You will always have me. I'm never leaving you. Like, we have each other. But I see other examples, you know, where there's high conflict and you know, they're in family court for years and it's just this battle and it's throwing mud at each other through lawyers, and that's a reality for so many. And I think it's really important to have a support group because you still have to show up for work, you still have to be a functioning human, and quite often this can be the most debilitating experience.
Oh, it
for
really
women.
can. Absolutely. I've met so many women that heartbreaking because losing their kids. As women, we are so maternal, and so our kids are almost like an extension of us. It's like walking heartbeats outside of us. And so when we lose that because we don't have the money to fight and say like, oh, I have a home for them to come to, you know, then they get sucked into like really deep depression. And so I really have a heart for women to just rise up and be strong, and for them to know that they can do hard things, and that oftentimes those hard things, we surprise ourselves with how strong we are.
Definitely. And I think there's so many learning things. Like in the age of social media, just know that anything you put out there can be used for good or for bad. And it's like, I wouldn't say, and I actually say this to my clients, I'm like, if you're giving a quote to press, you have to be as confident in that quote as if you were to get a tattoo on your face. It's never going to be off the record. What you say is good to go. So like, just choose your words carefully. I think that's a principle that applies for everything. If you're posting stuff on social media, any text message you send, any email you send, just know it can be used against you or it can be used for you. So I just think be so mindful because your words are powerful.
They really are. Oh my gosh, I could talk to you all day and
Likewise.
Our time is already up, but thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
I appreciate you. This is Becoming You Again with Jennifer Jean. Thank you for watching, and until next time, keep showing up for yourself. I'm so excited to announce my new show, Becoming You Again, with me, your host, Jennifer Jean. This show is for anyone looking to grow in their faith, to heal, and to start moving forward in the purpose that God has for you. I can't wait for you guys to check out Becoming You Again.